Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. The last day of my 2v2 tournament signups are upon us. They're over on Discord and also in the description below. And in honor of that, I wanted to post a recent game that I had with Feanor against Donski and Brick. Now, Donski has since become a Lieutenant Colonel and could probably be much higher if he continued to play ranked. He's a perfectly good player, a really strong opponent, and Brick has been around for a long time as well. He just doesn't really enjoy ranked too much, and the reason this one stuck out to me, just to sort of front load that, because yeah, it's double brig against Captain Private, is because Feanor and I had very distinct roles here, and I wanted to sort of show that, talk about that a little bit before the 2v2 tourney starts, because I feel like some of these roles, some of these decisions that we made are going to be very applicable, because again, the tournament, so we have experienced players as knights, and we have newer players as squires, and those guys are put together to form a team with the idea that more experienced players can work with the less experienced players, bring them up a little bit in terms of skill level and experience, and just really create a nice environment for the Wargame Red Dragon scene to have these continuing tournaments and experiences and just ways to grow the community. So that's the hope there, and right away, so my opener was Merkava 3D Baz ×2, which is very heavy. But my role here was entirely support. So you see right away there's a nice seed plane call from Brick. But my goal here was not to push Alpha. It was not to push all of Bravo. It was to be the anvil to Feanor's hammer. So he has double Leopard 2A5. He's going up here into Golf. We wanted to push this as strongly as we can. And we're running into a bit of a Donski brick wall here over in Triangle Forest. So that was a bit of a problem. There's a lot of BVs over there, there's a lot of tanks, but through all of this, Feanor has the role of bringing his stuff up to the front, aggressively taking those engagements and continuing to be our front line, and my job is to capitalize on the engagements that we really need that additional presence, and then to do things like buy artillery. So I've gone ahead and done that with the MAR-290. Going to be trying to shoot in, stun, panic, and kill a lot of stuff over there from Donski, and then also to get things like command vehicles, get our points tick going here for the team. And there are some drawbacks to that. So one of them is, if I was being really aggressive here, I could have taken the roll fight, I could have pushed them this way. That might have even gotten us the town. But that's not what we discussed, it's not what our intention was, it's not what we had wanted to do, and it's a risk, because we still haven't really seen a full opener from Brick. If I collapse too much onto Golf, and Brick had a lot of stuff in Alpha Bravo, he could just say, oh, well, hey, that's where all his opponent's points are, that means there's not much in Bravo, and he could have just swept down here and gone. And if that does start to happen, then it's my job to handle that as well. So, it's just one of those things where I expect this will be a useful skill or a useful thing to think about during the 2v2 tourney, how you fit into the team, rather than just trying to take that separate one-on-one engagement, saying, okay, well, there's this lane, I'm going to play this lane, my teammate's going to play this lane, and that's that, and that's, you know, the two of us, and that's going to be the whole game. No, you got to work with your ally and try to make the most of that sort of expanded option list that you get when there's twice as many points on the board. And as another thing I do just want to, last thing I'll mention about the tournaments, but there is no map ban system so long as everyone agrees. Please don't ask me over and over and over again for naval. If you insist on nothing but a naval map, I'll kind of say, hey, your team's not really being reasonable for settling and compromising on a map for the tournament games. So yeah, just talk about it amongst yourselves, enjoy. My whole hope for this whole sort of thing is that you guys can have as much fun as you can with as few rules as possible, and that means that, yeah, we're not going to be picking maps for you, there are no deck bans, anything like that, but just, you know, go with that in the spirit that it has. So, T55M Pion PSV immediately doinked out of existence by Leopard 2A5, and Brick did a really early double Syria 30 buy, and that can be amazing when you see 4 super heavies on the field, but I think what's part of letting him down right now with it is there wasn't enough recon that stayed alive down here. So there was some fighting infantry from Donski, there was that Pion PSV, but it's a fragile unit. If you want it to just passive spot, you have to turn off the gun, because against this many supers, it's really just going to be outclassed, and the arty is a little bit more terrifying there, especially that partial volley to stun, which is a very nice thing. I believe that's Donski's artillery as well, and he's quite good at that whole sort of thing. So I'm getting a cap onto Foxtrot. We do need to start that point stick here, and with good smoke micro, we should be able to avoid those Syrias at least for a little bit longer. Actually, you can see that in action here. Leopard 2A5 trying to pop up and get a kill there, but the smoke was not really cooperating, so it was a bit more in front of that 2A5 than he had wanted, and with the presence of these VDV-90 right there, yeah, not a great place to be. So we're getting some zoning tools as well. My buys, again, are pretty much entirely support buys for my teammate here. Getting Dorban LRs, getting spikes up here to sort of screen out those BVs, and right now, just positionally, red does have an advantage. So Donski's T64 BVs have been very dominant in the early to mid game, even against double Leopard 2A5, and that second Leopard 2A5, by the way, not quite in the right position right off the bat. There is one BV lost there, and that is basically the first edge that we were able to get in terms of expensive trading in this game. BVs are 120 points. They are not cheap. They're not something you can throw away for free. And yeah, I mean, that was nice. That was a nice kill for us. I was hoping to get the Mar 290 firing again. Let's see if we can get it. And if I can get stuns across this whole section, then with the Panzer 90 with the Natra, we can do a coordinated combined push over there. But this was really, really rough. So there's a T-72BU, VDV-90 getting one shot away at the 2A5, stunned. But that BU got a second shot in, and now we've actually traded a 2A5 away for that BV, and that was even worse. So yeah, I mean, just nice BU placement. It was not expected that you guys would have another super like that, although after nearly 7 minutes it is definitely an affordable thing. People will sometimes never buy supers because, well, it's such an expensive option. You know, you get one every minute and a little over a minute and a half. So in team games especially, getting those forces up there can be make or break. I mean, now with the knowledge that BU is there and the BV is there as well, even if they did retreat out a little bit, just one 2A5 is not quite enough, and my 3D bases have been, well, they've been not important for far too long. So that was one of the drawbacks. That was one of the things that I majorly did wrong here in this game. These 3D bases should have been much more active supporting that fight, and had we been able to collapse over, that would have been a nice thing. So it is one of the costs of doing that sort of backline coordination that I was trying to do here, buying another Auxiliary Pakud for Bravo, where we took +1 for just a couple seconds, but that's not quite good enough. And I mean, it's not like the Merkavas have been entirely useless. Getting kills like this and zoning things out will be a big deterrent and will accrue value over time, and so keeping them alive is a good thing. But I don't know, that BU pick from Donski, one of the best buys he could have done for the situation, and definitely paid off. So nicely done to the Red 4 team there. So in terms of mid to late game goals, right? So what are our mid to late game goals? If we keep square and if we keep triangle, then we win. That was sort of the long-term goal here. So that means a cap on Bravo. It means a cap right here in Square Forest and Golf soon. But in terms of more immediate goals, I had wanted to actually take a more active role in the support for Foxtrot. So you're going to see me buying a couple of just resupply jeeps, things like that. Eventually some infantry over there as well, because we really need to lock down that Triangle Forest. And right now, that was a big issue. So another thing here, Brick is trying to get into the fight. This is one of the things as well. He didn't really push me in Bravo, not quite yet, and so we don't really have an outlet for his points, so they've just been accruing for most of it, and double Syria here, again trying to get those 3D bases. But I think this is one thing as well that will come with good coordination whenever you're working with a teammate here in 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. If you don't know what to do in the middle of a team game and you just sort of waffle, it's not great. And that's a little bit on my side, that's a little bit on Brick's side. I think he just was expecting something in Bravo and wanted to defend. But I don't want to attack here. So if you want to defend here and I want to defend here and neither one of us is going to go, then eventually you're going to have the question of, okay, well, what am I doing? Especially when your team applies pressure for that. So they'll go, hey, I've been fighting for this long, I'm losing my front line here, they're like just the tanks left, things like that. What are you doing to help? And that what are you doing to help is a very important question. I actually think both the Syrias, because they've gotten 0 value in about 10 minutes and were purchased maybe 3 minutes in, it's a lot of points there, probably would have been better off as an earlier cap in Alpha, and some grinding infantry in Bravo just to pull our points away. Because if Donski's having success here, I said before, you don't play individual lanes. Well, okay, that's true, but sometimes your teammate might need you to distract on a different lane, to have that engagement going on somewhere else. just to pull points away. So if I hadn't been able to cap here, if I hadn't been able to bring up Rios, if I hadn't been able to bring up maybe a Draken or buy this backline artillery, because Mar-290s, now 2 of them, have been pounding in against the Skirmishes, against Spetsnaz, against all these tanks, and helping zone things out in Triangle Forest. So if those had been not as easily available, that could make a pretty big difference. Also, I mean, if I get in trouble over there and Feanor starts to have to support me for that, that could be a very bad thing as well. So one of the great things about the Mar-290 is everything that it hits nearby will be stunned. So that tank is stunned, the BTR-90 was stunned, VDV-90 a little bit too far away. But with that, actually that probably would have been a nice moment to go up and get the kill there. Yeah, jeez, sorry. Anyway, man, Tor, BV, triple BV, holy cow. Sorry, sometimes I see this stuff and it's you know, it's fun. It's why I do these things. It's why I post these replays and have this hobby. It's fun for me to see what works and doesn't. And Donski's tank play is just great. I think if Brick had taken maybe 300 or 400 points out of his income right now, and instead of spending that on planes or something like that, had come in and provided that front line, we wouldn't be fighting up here in Triangle right now. We'd be fighting back here, and that would be a really nice way into the game for Red, who have been a little bit positionally behind the last 7 or 8 minutes or so. It's like, I don't know, 1v1's Triangle Forest is sometimes a really tough push. 2v2, it's a really key push. And I mean, and look at that, like Red pops up, only thing left is this 2A5 NL, that has to go back because the double BV is just, you know, it's very good, right? It's very good. For the price, I think it's some of my favorites, medium heavies, I guess. They're not mediums, they have more armor and more punch than that, but yeah, there are also heavier heavies as well. So the 2A4 is 130 points, a little bit heavier, and then we have the 2A4NL, which is one of my favorites in that price category. For 145 points, the availability you get with the 2A4NL is really nice. So I actually have a Dutch armored deck for that reason, and I play it sometimes in team games, and the whole purpose of that deck is to buy as many 2A4NLs as possible and just chuck them downfield. And it's a little goofy, but it can be just really oppressive if they can't kill the tanks. So on this side, Dorban LR looking for a couple of cheeky kills here. The first one I had over on this side that was supposed to support in against this thin section of forest did die, and the Mar-290 just zoning things out, hoping to kill some Spetsnaz, hoping to stun some tanks, and not quite able to do so, which means I will suffer a little bit with that Dorban LR. Fragile 2-man team, of course, not the most resilient thing ever. But where did my brasses go? Because they're no longer here. Now they're moving over this way. We do also see an XA-180 Copa. It's a fine CV. It's one armor all around for 125 points. It's like, yeah, it's not the most durable. Better than a 5 HP Jeep, though. The issue is that I'm watching it come all the way in. So if you ever want to cap on high side of Bravo, my strong recommendation, don't drive down this road. In the mid-game, any sort of recon helicopter farther back on this side will be able to spot that. And I know immediately right away where this thing is, and I'm playing Israel, a deck known for heavy artillery. I highly recommend instead that you sort of fast move it over to back here, and then you push it forward, and that way, you know, it'll take one of these farther back roads, it'll come through this side, and yeah, it might take a little bit longer to get there, but I'd take that over your opponent knowing exactly where it is and what it is as well, because if I don't know if that's a command infantry or a command tank, then I don't know if I need cluster or high explosive, and if it's a command tank and I start firing the Mars in, well, yeah, it's not going to really do all that much, so it's a pretty good spot to be in. Because it'll waste my time, it'll waste my supplies, it'll waste my focus, and it'll pull those pieces away from other things. But if I know it's that one armor all-around Jeep, I'm pretty sure I can kill that with double Mar-290. So, yeah, it's a whole different story. Alright, well, the constant artillery barrages have sort of forced infantry out of Triangle Forest. There's still the issue of the BVs, but the longer this goes on, the better it is. And that did stop the tick, so it's 62-13, not the biggest points lead in terms of conquest points and everything like that so far. And now it's been long enough, and there's enough support over here for Feanor, where I'm going to start to do a couple of minor actions up here, not a heck of a lot, just Rovite Shaitat, pushing up in direct response to seeing that CV, and in coordination with the Mar-290 strike. So we're going to hit everything back there, stun it. That KRKK would ordinarily do really good work against the Rovite 90, but it didn't ever have a chance to fire its AGL because, yeah, well, it was stunned. And with that, with the Rovite and Shaitat, that's going to be enough to force that command vehicle out, and we get Tick going again. And in the meantime, double 3D Baz cycling over this way to serve as a stand-in for my allies 2A5, which did have to retreat a little bit more. We do also notice some command infantry going up toward Gulf. This one's a bit harder to hide because, well, if I don't see it come in, I'm going to assume that it's probably right here. And if I do see it walk in, well, I know it's infantry. So it's the same thing that applies, it's just a much more difficult zone to hide things in, which is a little unfortunate. Hawk and Seed behind. The Mock Bet has had its Vulcan off the entire game. Probably should have been a little farther up, but I didn't want to risk it quite that much. And, well, Shiatet have wheels for feet, so they survived the Hawk bombing run, but that was probably the most value out of planes that the Red 4 team has gotten in 25 minutes. Which is a little bit unfortunate, right? It's a 60-point plane, it just got 40 points in kills, and, yeah, I mean, probably would have been pretty nice to have a bit better return on that many points in the air that quickly, but you did just see that town hop right there. That means the enemy command infantry is right in this section. I don't know, we watched that happen, and I don't remember if Fëanor and I mentioned it to each other, but I wasn't going to hit it with Mar-290s right away. I think that might happen later, depending on how things go. Anyway, double mod, and after that Hawk bombing run, the enemy command vehicle is back in Bravo. Red is ticking +1. They have now recovered that advantageous map position by clearing out Triangle Forest, and this has been a really tight game. So it's nice to see those sorts of things, and I don't know. I thought it was a game where that passive role that I'm taking, there was a reason for it, and it did help in some regards, but I don't think I did it quite with the right timing. So I wasn't there early enough on the front line to support my allies' push there, and my backline units had less effectiveness than I was really hoping for. So Kurnos, Barak 2, this is the ATGM, or sorry, that's the ASF version, the Barak is the ATGM version, going in for a kill there, and unfortunately not able to pick up one of those M1 mods, and chased away by MiG-29 913S. But this is one of the things too, you can't overcommit in team games. The air defense density is higher. Kurnos 2000s, by the way, do have air-to-air missiles, and I do believe we picked up a Tor, so it's an 80-point kill off of that Kurnos 2000, so Tunguska's gun was off, almost certainly. So yeah, I mean, it's just, air's tough in 1v1s, and it's even tougher in team. So this is pretty scary, double mod right here, but not a heck of a lot of stuff in front of it, and this forced me to buy, we should see it coming in just a second. Oh, that's the ATGM. Whereas I could have sworn I got one of those Nimrod helicopters, not just because I am one, but because they're quite good. Yeah, and then this was a little brutal. So I've switched over entirely to this front line right in time for artillery barrage. Little less than ideal there. The Rovite need to get up into the forest instead of being in the open, and my 3D Bazes are just looking for these tanks, the BV, the BU, everything back there, hoping to get a couple of kills. I'm nice and calm. They're worried, down to 1 strength on that BV, and I should have been probably pushing right past this, but we get the BV kill. It's 120 points right there, and I was also hoping for that BU, but down goes one of my 3D Bazes. The BU got 2 shots off on it, and we've traded another super heavy for another 120-point tank. So just nice defensive play from Donski, a little bit of an overreach from our side, and yeah, a really nice return on that for red. So yeah, I don't quite know what was up with my tank play or my allies' tank play this game. It was just, it was meeting the most firm USSR brick wall I've seen in quite a while. By the way, that Hawk bombing run, my Shiatet were sitting here for quite a while. The Hawk comes in, they scoot. It's just, man, the infantry speed on elites is just insane. If you've never tried doing that sort of thing, give it a shot. It's really an annoying way to pull apart your opponent's tension and resources. So yeah, we're gonna get the Alouette 2 here. We're probably gonna kill one of the KTs. Driving a little too far up. When you see enemy elites, just drop off a little bit before you think you have to, and that way you don't lose the infantry inside of those transports as well, who are potentially very expensive. And this was just, I mean, down goes a 2A4, the double BV and BU action here, too much for the Blue 4 team to really deal with. And now, because of this, we are only getting ticked because of the right-hand side, and the thing I'll say about it, honestly, is for as long as there was before we started to see both of the Red 4 players on the other side of the map, oof, that was a bad loss. But we get the trade, I think. Oh, come on, we get the trade, right? Yes. For as long as it took for Red 4 to show up with both players on the other side of the map here over in Golf and Foxtrot, I'd really expected there to be more standing in my way to sweep out Bravo. And yeah, all the Shiatet do die, but I've killed some KTs, I've killed an Alouette, I killed some infantry, we've forced the command vehicle out long enough that it's now 103 points to 26. I guess I just expected a little bit more of a brick wall there, well, no pun intended, from the Red 4 team, just to prevent me from getting up onto the high ground. So you can do that, by the way, with some IFVs in this section. It is somewhat hidden, it'll get nice close range shots, and you get cheap infantry throughout here, and then when the cheap infantry make contact, your fire support vehicles shoot in. You can do the same thing with this forest here, although it is a little bit more risky. Syria is diving, and I think it's one of those where if you have strike planes for too long, they start to look a little bit too easy to put in the field, so down goes one Syria. I trade a Barak 2 into it, yeah, but that pulls another 27M, and it's just flying so far in. I was really hoping to get another kill there on it, but yeah, no such luck. And there, this is one of those multiplayer team game trades that's a little bit goofy, because yeah, the Barak 2 is very important. On the other hand, not having that Syria around when we've been having a little bit of a hard time with armor previously anyway is a very nice thing. And now, so the approach has changed just a little bit, we're going to be attacking into Gaul from a different direction. So there's a Leopard Verkenning here, there's a 2A4 NL here, there's going to be some reinforcements coming in on the ground on both the left and from the right hand side into Gulf, trying to really squeeze the Triangle Forest and the resupply lane at the same time. 2A4NL going to cut that off here by shooting in, yeah, I mean directly at this road, right? So the red side will have to play back here, but this will slow them down just a little bit, and that prompts a big engagement. So we have not one, but two T-72M1 mods from Brick, 1-2 right there. BMP-2s are pretty scary infantry fighting vehicles. There's a spike right behind it. That's too much for a single 2A4NL, and this was probably the moment where I was most worried for our side, but it's also where I buy that CV, and that sort of doesn't square all that well. And you have to realize, when this was going on, with those first couple of vehicle losses and the lack of smoke, this looked to me like the place where we could potentially win the game, and then the command vehicle could double down on that. So I didn't really think we would lose square all that much. Dorbon's shooting in, and already, I mean, yeah, everything here is stunned, panicked, having a really, really bad day, and that mod can't get away from my spike. So this position over here on the side, looking to kill that super heavy, and the Nimrod, I think, steals the kill right there. There's a second one, but it's stunned, and we can see it, and that Yasser Nimrod is just such a brutal, brutal tool, guys. I mean, if you've never used this, play Israel for a little bit, give it a try. 70% accuracy, 60% stabilizer, 28 armor piercing, and guess what? The missile speed is higher than pretty much everything else as well. So yeah, I mean, it dies to a Tunguska, but I just killed a T-72M1 mod with it, so I'm not sure I care all that much. On the other hand, this was a little bit goofy, so my Gimel is trying to kill that spike, and the other Syria does come in. This thing was purchased 3 minutes in, and it gets its first important kill. Actually, no, double whiff. Yeah, jeez. Syrias were just not living their best life today, shall we say. Yeah, a little goofy. Anyway, Panzer now trying to get into Bravo. The Red 4 team cycling over to take that woods fight, since the Gulf fight has gone pretty horrendously, and that section, that couple of minutes, does sort of decide the game, I think, because now, I mean, there's still a 2A4 here. Both the supers that could roadblock this thing are gone. We're getting up into the L Forest, which is a really, really critical position. Once blue takes L Forest, on this leg, but really through into this side as well, it becomes really hard for red to reinforce on either of these two roads, and that can leverage the town very, very well. So Hawk Bomber coming in, looking for those Stoot Troopin', Tiger actually supporting with rocket pods. I mean, this is later stage Paddy Fuel 2v2 in a nutshell, pretty much. It's like Bravo is annoying, and if Golf falls, then so falls the game. Yeah, and it's just, it is what it is, right? Accruing value over time, I think, has let us put a bit more pressure on, and it's even weird to see, you know, while I've been watching this, it was sort of odd to see where that value came from, because we did lose so many super heavies and expensive tanks over on the left-hand side, but yeah, I guess it was never really for free. Even the BVs are 120 points, it's not 0. Oh man, that was mean. That was triple Mar 290. I think I was just looking for a single mortar in here. Hope I got it. Not the way to use Mar 290s, by the way. Keep them separate and separately fire them. That way you can panic and stun everything, and you can respond to things like seeing that artillery fire. If I dumped triple Mar 290 right on top of that section of hotel, that would have actually been some payoff. But yeah, no, this is not how to use that artillery piece ideally. It's also 270 points in one spot, so a little bit of a risk, but Again, late game Paddy Field, we're ticking +2 now because of Foxtrot Golf and having the only Captain Bravo after scoring a CV kill up top there. And yeah, I mean, we're only 3 minutes from the end, probably for a reason. So at this point, we have AMX Pries, one of the best, cheaper infantry transports in the game, shared by the Dutch and the French, I believe, although they call it something different. And we're going to be going to clear this town. So if you remember, there was an infantry CV here for a while. It did get artillery to death, unfortunately. Just a bit of a fragile thing to have. And by the way, if you've never done this as well, man, a couple more of those than I would like today. And you know, try putting some recon infantry in this little section of forest. You might not even know that it exists, but if you do, I'm sure you have used it by now. And once you get this far, you can counterspot infantry and vehicles, especially in the woods on the side. It's really, really good, especially if there's a command tank or something like that. You'll spot it really easily. I did remember the Syria killing my tank. There it was. Yeah. Good job, Syria. Yeah. But anyway, that section is really great for recon infantry, but they can be counter-spotted if your opponent has something in the bottom of Elf Forest. So a nice way to move stuff up there is either in the early game or when you're doing this, have something like that tank that I previously had right here and some infantry and screen that out, because if they watch you put your recon infantry that far forward, it's probably going to get mortared. It's just going to die, which is not exactly ideal. So down goes another tank, but this time we get the 27M there, 200-point plane, dead for the Red 4 team, and that is going to mostly wrap up this replay. So let's get into the kills and losses here, the star units, just for a couple of seconds, and then I'll have to say goodbye. But yeah, I haven't been able to get back to daily posting, and a lot of that, for those of you who are still hanging around and are curious, a lot of that is because I had some trouble at work a couple of weeks back, and I've been looking for jobs, well, actually about a month or so back, really when I had wanted to get back to the daily posts, but yeah, so I've been doing a lot of interviewing. I've been doing that in addition to regular work stuff, and of course the busyness of hosting the tournament, so yeah, it's been a little less than ideal, and to be quite honest, some of those days where I'm really looking at a lot of jobs, it's been stressful enough. I haven't wanted to record and sound like, hey guys, today sucked, but let's talk about something together. So I want to give you guys the replays where I'm excited, where I'm enthusiastic, where we're all having fun. So yeah, just bear with me. It'll come back, I promise. So 5,044 kills, 3155 losses, 2422 to 2622 kills here on blue. And a couple of fewer losses for me than Feanor, but he had the much tougher job at the beginning of that match. And really, I think Donski did fight pretty well. This is just what happens when eventually your super heavies do get out the round, unfortunately. So, star units on my side, Dorban LRs are always very good. The Bazes did alright, but to be honest, only the one that killed the BU really got its own value, although that was really a clutch thing. Really, I think more of what gave me good value in this game were things like the Kurnos 2000. Yeah, there's more anti-air in 2v2, but people also are sloppier with their seed micro, so seed planes can really prosper. It's a Tor, it's a ROM. The ROM's a little cheap, yeah, but the Neva is not, so that's 90 there, 80 there, and I believe 45 for the ROM, unless it's the 65.1. I don't quite remember the Polish ROM naming system. And then the Scheitz 13 push that just went up and cleared everything out was really pretty great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Panzerjäger 90, 25 points apiece right there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 KTs, each one of those 20 points. These guys killed 140 points just in vehicles. Really be careful with those in those woods fights in 2v2. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again, and hopefully have some better and more consistent times here with the channel pretty soon.